Ride's here. You coming?
I think we both know this is where we go our separate ways.
Holy fuck.
In my last video, I talked about how good the Resident Evil 4 remake is, and everything about it, from the characters, writing, and even dialogue, but even voiced some flaws. But all in all, the Resident Evil 4 remake was not only a great remake, but even a great game in general. But I can definitely say that Separate Ways is just as good. Separate Ways is a story DLC expansion for Resident Evil 4, starring our favorite Chinese woman, Ada Wong, along adding her and Wesker into Mercenaries as a free update not included with the Separate Ways DLC. Another thing OG fans complain about. So in my last video I did talk about the original a lot so I can empathize what the remake did better, but for this review I'm not really going to be bringing up the original Separate Ways that much. Not because I didn't play it, but really because I don't really like it that much. I can't say it's something I would go back and play as much as I would with the new Separate Ways. It does give some good background and context to the original, and we also get another scene with our favorite Spanish charmer, Luis Serra. But what's weird is that I couldn't really get that into the gameplay or the story. Gameplay wise, Ada doesn't seem that different from Leon. She just feels like a Leon with a different skin on. Who knows, maybe I'll play through it on Twitch at some point. Go follow my Twitch. But for the remake Separate Ways, I can definitely say that it's just as good as the base game story. Now before we dive any deeper, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Ada's voice actor. Her voice is not good. That's not me bullying the actress or directing any sort of harassment towards her, it's just fair criticism, but I can't really say I blame her at all. If you take a good look at Lily Gao, Ada's voice actor, you'll see that she doesn't have any voiced roles listed, just movies and TV shows, including the most recent Resident Evil live-action movie, Welcome to Raccoon City, where she also played Ada Wong. So I can kinda understand why they wanted to bring her back, but at the same time, they should have hired someone else like Ada's previous voice actor from the RE2 remake. Yes, I know she's not the same nationality as Ada, but why is that important when we were talking about voice acting? Also, I don't think that the reason why Ada sounds the way she does is because she's supposed to have this non-caring tone, when that doesn't work because that's not who Ada is. Ada is a very caring character, and that's shown in her body language, and even at some rare times, Lily Gao can show that off. And another reason why I don't think that excuse works is because of this delivery.
I'm seeing quite the crowd here. I wonder what has them so riled up.
Didn't that just sound like she was reading straight from the script? But again, I do not blame her at all because of what I found. She's never done any voice work, and I'm sure you can just chalk it up as bad voice directing. So with that all out of the way, let's get into the review. Start off, Ada feels really good to play. Before, you could only use the grapple hook to reach areas you otherwise couldn't without it. But now, you can also use her grapple hook to close in on a stunned enemy and deliver a strong flying kick. Literally every time I used the grapple hook on an enemy, I would just chant the Batman 89 theme. I forgot to bring this up, but the game also has charms you can unlock by obtaining gold and silver tokens from the shooting range, and putting them in a gumball machine. It is of course randomized, so you don't always have a guaranteed chance for getting a really good charm like the Infamous Striker charm, which increases the player's movement speed, and obvious callbacks to the OG's popular glitch, the Dip Man, which did the same thing. But for Ada, the merchant just gives you these charms. Well, not really give, because you still have to purchase them with spindles, which you unlock by completing side missions, including a new one where you have to obtain Leon's jacket from a villager, another callback to the OG. But you can trade a certain amount of spindles for a specific charm of your choosing. My favorite charm for Ada has to be her OG model charm, which gives her the ability of taking away an enemy's shield by ripping it off their hand with her grapple hook. Going back to the merchant, he really just has a crush on Ada. There are way more rewards you can obtain in this DLC than in Leon's campaign, like more crystals, treasures, charms, and even keys to unlock drawers. Honestly, Merchant, I say go for it, just so Leon doesn't have to deal with her anymore. This scene with the Merchant also deconfirms the popular belief that he's a figment of Leon's imagination, but Ada actually interacts with him in a cutscene, which is honestly so cool.
Hey, stranger. So what are you buying?
You've picked quite the place to set up shop, stranger.
Aye, and look what it brought me.
Guns from Leon's campaign like the Punisher and the Blacktail, which Ada starts with, and also the TMP without the stock, but she also has her own set of weapons like the sawed-off shotgun and the crossbow, a way better alternative to the bolt thrower. Level design is also a really good part of this DLC. Instead of just going through Resident Evil 4 but backwards, we are able to actually explore new areas that would otherwise be inexplorable. But now, we can explore new areas like these wooden platforms above that one section and the roof of Salazar's boss fight. Prior to the roof, we also experience other returning sections from the original, like the stone crushers. Other returning sections are the trolley, and of course, the laser room. Just for you whiny obsessed OGs complaining about them not being in the base game.
Well, that was excessive.
During the laser room, we also get a whole new enemy, Martinigo. What kind of Spanish slang is that? Most of Leon's mini-bosses return, like the Pig Mask, the iconic Dr. Salvador, and of course, the Village Chief, who returns for a really cool chase sequence. But Ada has her very own stalker enemy chasing her around the village, and that's Pesante, Salazar's left hand, who then transforms into the U3, or most commonly known, It. Another thing for you whiny obsessed fans to stop crying over. Wow, dude! And his boss fight is fucking difficult. On hardcore, sure, it's pretty hard, but professional can at times be impossible. His first section is hard, and at times the game wouldn't respond to my button prompts whenever a QuickTime event would show up, but his second section is maddening. Sometimes I would have to reload a prior save to make sure that I have enough ammo to actually defeat him. So aside from that, it's a really good boss fight, and I love how they morph It and Pesante into one. We also get another boss fight with Sadler in his human form. Can't say it's a fun boss fight, especially when he does that one charging attack. It can be pretty confusing on how you actually avoid it, unless you go up the stairs where the sacrifice stone slab is, but I guess that's passable. So far, aside from some minor complaints like the Sadler boss fight, I've spoken pretty highly about this DLC. So how's the story? For me, I think the story is just a really fun ride. Unlike the base game, Ada's story doesn't really have any deep moments, but I also think it does give us more insight on Ada's character and what she actually is in the story. I think it really does give us some more deserved screen time with her. I know that's a no-brainer statement because Separate Ways was advertised as a story for Ada, but I mentioned it because of how little screen time Ada had in the base game, which is honestly the whole reason why I forgot to talk about Ada in my last review for this game. I can also say that the underperformance of Ada is also a nagging factor, but it's also because she barely had time in the base game. But this DLC definitely does make up for that. I again still feel like her personality in this game isn't that she doesn't care about what's going on aside from what people say while defending Ada's VA. While I support all of you for defending her, and I'm in the same boat as you, we are definitely sitting on different sides. Ada does care. She does give a damn. The way her body language and even sometimes how the actor performs supports that fact. No matter how many times she tricks and manipulates Leon, she does care about him. She does go out of her way to save Leon by delaying the island's explosion and even minimizing it, which was completely different from Wesker's plans, who she was hired by to retrieve the Amber. Don't worry, I will explain everything about Wesker and Ada's mission, but right now I want to talk about Ada. She even cares for Luis. Even though she literally pointed a gun at him, she does care about him and his own mission, which is to save Leon and Ashley. She outright tells him to leave her behind while being chased by Pesante so he can finish his own duties.
I can't leave you here. Not like this.
Spare me. I'll be fine. You got another promise to keep.
His crusade is even half the reason why she saved Leon and Ashley by Luis telling her to save them for him right after he was stabbed by Krauser. So again, contrary to popular opinion, yes, Ada does care. She does care about Leon, she does care about Luis's mission, and she does care about the public's safety when she didn't deliver the Amber to Wesker.
So, we're talking millions of casualties.
Billions.
How ambitious. We're changing course. Now.
So again, like I said earlier, the DLC story doesn't really have that same impact that the base game did, but it still gives us some really good insight on Ada, Wesker, and even Luis to a degree. He has even more screen time than he did in the original, but I will say one of his scenes in this DLC isn't really one of the strongest. When Ada and Luis reach his lab in the castle, they find out that it has been set on fire with the cure. The reason why this is so important to not only Luis, but even the player, is because Ada was actually infected by the same virus that Leon actually had during her first boss fight with Pesante.
Not bad. Not nearly good enough.
So,
Why does this matter to me?
Because you two are infected. It's what I researched for all these years, Ada, and I see the symptoms already showing in your eyes.
So because of how important the cure is to Luis, he rushes in to try to save it. Of course, that's not the problem I have with this scene, because it does show how much he cares about saving Leon and Ashley. What my problem is with this is after Ada and Luis escape the blaze, he really has this meltdown about how he can't save them because the original cure was destroyed. He rants about how this was the only chance to not only save Leon and Ashley, but even Ada, but also how it was his only chance to redeem himself, because he was responsible for creating the virus. Then Ada has to remind him that he made the cure and he can make it again. I just don't really think that this scene fits Luis's character in this game. So far, he's been this hopeful and smart guy, always having a way out of things, almost like a leader. But for some reason, he almost gives up, and probably would have if Ada wasn't there to tell him that he can make it again. It's just a really odd scene, and I don't think it fits his character at all. I guess you can defend it and say that this hopeful, charming personality is an act to hide that he can be a very emotional person in certain situations, but I just don't ever see Luis just outright giving up. But nonetheless, Ada tells Luis to just make a new one, and they set off to find the ingredients to create a new cure. But sadly for them both, it's not completely a cure. It does suppress the virus, but only for a short amount of time. But luckily the cure does kick in, so she's able to escape from Pesante in a very slick motion. I really do like the scenes where Ada starts getting hallucinations or whatever while Pesante is close. It gives off this really isolated and tension-filled situation where Pesante can just sneak up and attack at any time. But luckily, prior to one of these scenes, Ada is able to find all the ingredients to make a new cure, and Luis is able to give it to her before Pesante gets too close. This leads us to try to find Luis by tracking him with his footsteps, which we did earlier back in the village after he escaped with the help of Leon. Ada tracks Luis by using this badass spy vein, I like to call it, which gives her this really cool looking cyber eye. Makes me want to get Cyberpunk on my PC and mod in Ada, which then leads us to an underground area. Does this imply that Luis swam through the water? Yeah, we ain't doing that. After we encounter some castle guards and another memorable enemy than the Visitors, we of course once again encounter Pesante, who then turns into the U3, or it if you will. After we defeat Pesante / the U3, Ada is finally cured of her infection by throwing it up. Ew. Luis calls up Ada to sadly tell her that him and Leon were attacked by Krauser, and that Luis was fatally injured by him. Ada then rushes over to try to help, but we are unfortunately too late, and once again, we see Luis die while Leon is there with him. From what we can already tell in this version, Ada and Krauser don't actually know each other, unlike in the original, where they are both working with Wesker to recover the sample of the virus. I know a lot of people have a problem with this change, but personally it doesn't really bother me. Again, I really wasn't a fan of the original Separate Ways, and Ada and Krauser working together was something I totally forgot about, and not including Krauser working with Wesker did get us more backstory for Krauser, which made me actually care about him, so I think it's a good change. I guess this is also a really good time to talk about Wesker in this game, who gets some well-deserved screen time. Wesker is basically the showrunner of this DLC, sending Ada on this mission to retrieve the Amber. Already, Wesker just seems like such a cool villain. Sadly, his iconic voice actor DC Douglas doesn't return, who of course gave us his iconic lines.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
Poor performance indeed.
But his new VA, Craig Bernanowski, does a pretty good job, still giving Wesker a very intimidating voice, and he even says one of Wesker's iconic lines.
Consider the village infected. Complete local saturation.
Will be released into the atmosphere, ensuring complete global saturation.
I don't know if the RE1 remake is part of this new canon, but this Wesker already has so much aura before he's even actually done anything. Already having a backup plan when he finds out Ada sabotaged his plans for blowing up the entire island, instead leaving a good amount of the island still intact.
Sir, the explosions failed to detonate simultaneously. Calculated destruction is well below 50% of the estimates. Most of the island remains intact.
Oh, Ada.
To go with this, Wesker even has the dead body of Krauser in his possession, leading to some theories of what's going to happen in the RE5 remake. Is he going to use the remaining parts of the island to execute his plans of global saturation? And will he not only control Jill Valentine, but even Krauser? Hell, there's even a possibility Ada could be part of the next remake, seeing how she's even more connected to the events of that game. To sum it up, Separate Ways is truly one of the best DLCs to ever come out, giving us deeper lore to RE4 and getting us more used to this new version of Ada, and reintroducing Wesker to the series, who I already have some high expectations for, not only him, but even the RE5 remake. Hell, this DLC only costs $10, which is crazy from the amount of content you're getting from it. So if you haven't gotten this DLC yet, even though it's been almost a year, I can safely say that you'll get some bang for your buck, stranger, from this DLC. With that being said, that's all I got for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, go ahead and smash that like button.
And we hit 1 billion likes!
I still got a lot of content planned for the future, so stay tuned. Also, just one more time for good measure, let me just plug in my Twitch real quick. Some of you have probably seen my community post about streaming the World S mod for RE4 Original and asking if I should stream Dead by Daylight. So if y'all want to check out those streams, go ahead and follow my Twitch. And if you guys would like to help me even more, go ahead and join my Patreon for just $1. Patreon members will get exclusive access to early videos a day before they are released on YouTube. Anyways, thank you all once again for watching, and I'll see you later.